If you like to laugh, and who doesn't, then you've come to the right place. Welcome to My Funny House with the Powell brothers. Frank Powell is a real estate broker who was born and raised in San Diego, along with Frank's brother Mark, a real estate broker who also lives in San Diego. Each week, the Powell brothers bring in a special guest comedian to share hilarious real estate stories so you can learn what can go really right and what can go really wrong with home improvements and home ownership. So now, let's get into it. With My Funny House, here are your hosts, Frank and Mark Powell on The Answer San Diego.
Good morning, San Diego. Thank you for tuning in to My Funny House with the Powell brothers. I'm sitting right next to a Powell brother. His name is Frank Powell.
Good morning, everyone. This is Frank Powell. Thanks for joining us. We also have Maria Herman, the producer at Comedy Heights, as our host. How are you doing, Maria?
I'm really well. Good morning, everybody.
Good morning, Maria. How are you today?
Fantastic. It's the best day of my life.
It's nice. It's nice out. Have you seen outside? It's really nice.
It's a great Saturday in San Diego.
Listen, any day with you guys is a good day.
Thank you so much. Today we're going to be talking about landscaping. Now, you know, every week we talk about a different topic that has to do with real estate. So whether you rent or own, we talk about a subject that will be, that you can relate to, correct?
Well, everything that we talk about has to do with the value of your home, whether or not you're going to buy or sell. So there's always something that, like you think landscaping, a Home Depot? No. We're talking about how to increase the value of your home the cheapest way possible, because no one wants to pay a whole bunch of money to get their house prepped.
Well, surprisingly enough, landscaping, as simple as it may seem, can be a little pricey.
The most expensive. However, there are ways to avoid that we'll talk about.
So how much? So when you do landscape, Frank, let me ask you a question here.
Okay, go ahead.
Well, ask Maria a question. Maria,
Yes.
do you have any experience landscaping?
Do I have experience with landscaping?
Yes.
I do, actually. I have a lot of experience with, because I've had a big house in Point Loma for 20 years with a full-time gardener. So
really,
it's landscaping is so important if you especially have established trees, shrubbery, grass. You want to take care of everything.
Well, how big is a house when you have a full-time gardener? That's full-time?
The house was a shack. It was all about the garden. It was nothing but garden, just an acre of garden. That's why we needed a gardener, you know. I mean, we were living in a shack. I have to say, I have heard, and this, I don't know if this happens in San Diego, and I don't want to give anyone any ideas, but you do have to protect your shrubbery, because a very cheap way to improve landscaping is to steal it from someone else.
How do
you can steal people's shrubs.
How?
You can, in the middle of the night, you get a shovel and you dig stuff up. It's happened to me.
Oh my.
So, I mean, I
Wow.
would just say
People have stole your landscaping?
Yes.
That's
Wow.
I mean, not rolling mounds of grass,
Right.
but absolutely, yes. You
A
need
sod
you need to
remover
be
comes in.
careful. It's valuable. I mean, you have to be very careful, is what I'm saying. And one person you have to be very careful of stealing your shrubbery is our guest comedian this week. We're happy to have him back. He has a new dry bar comedy special out. Please welcome Jesse Egan.
Woo!
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me, you guys. I'm excited to be here.
Well, thank you for coming
Good
on
to
the
get
show.
a break from work, actually. I don't know if you know, but I'm Maria Herman's full-time gardener. And
Oh, you take care of her
Arduous.
shrubbery?
arduous task. Yeah, I'm basically, most of my time is spent guarding against shrubbery thieves. They're rampant in her hood, so
So let's
I
talk
just
about
sit on
this.
her porch with a shotgun and chase off shrub grabbers.
Yeah,
Shrub-
I guess
shrub up.
everyone will take something if you leave it in your front yard, including maybe a baby palm tree. I'm not sure. But the reason why we're talking about this and why it's important pertaining to a house is that you guys know the concept of curb appeal, right? Curb appeal. That's when if you go down your street, you're going to be attracted to certain houses, and the ones you're attracted to have a type of curb appeal. It's, you're at the curb, you're looking at the house, and it's appealing. So you want to make your house look good. If you're going to sell it, you have to make it look good. So the first impression, just like if you're on a date, when you first see the person, there's appeal or there's not appeal.
Yes.
So
I think
how
my
do you
husband
increase the
had a lot
appeal?
of curb appeal. That's how I got him in the first
Mhm.
place. I
Yeah.
stood back there and went, yes, a great paint job. I'll take it.
Yeah. Well, there's also something called there's different types of landscaping. There's hardscape. Do you know what hardscaping is, Jesse?
I think that's what happens after I see someone with nice curbs.
Oh no. That is the definition. No, the hardscape is anything that is like the sidewalks of cement. That's a hard one not to picture. You just messed me up.
You're
Jesse.
funny, Jesse.
Yeah.
That was pretty funny.
Oh god. Yeah.
Thank you.
And that's opposed to softscape. Now,
Okay,
do you
what's
know-
hardscaping?
Okay, so hardscaping is there's areas that call landscaping, and that's going to be your plants and all the vegetation. And then there's hardscaping. Those are those nice sidewalks and paths and walkways and brick walls and retaining walls and things that add maybe a cement walkway going up, what kind of rocks you put in that walkway, and so forth. That's all hard. So if it dries, if it's cement, it dries, it's hard. Or if it's boulders, or if it's a stone wall, that'd be the hardscape. And then there's a plant. So there's different ways to solve that. Now, what we're looking at in San Diego, which is really nice, is that people are going drought resistant, which really means you get to put a bunch of rocks in your yard now. So there's ways to do rocks and rock paths and rock patterns that is not that expensive. You do two things. You add curb appeal and you reduce the water used to water a big plush garden like Maria had in Point Loma. So you do two things.
That's called a low maintenance yard.
The very low
I like
maintenance.
fake grass.
Fake grass is zero
I like
maintenance.
fake grass, and I like fake animals, and I like mannequins as friends. So I want nothing real in my life anymore.
Don't ever try to sell your house, Mark. If
How
people-
do you survive, Frank?
Yeah, exactly. That's my brother. So so that's the difference between hardscape and so if you look at it, and whoever is listening to this radio, tell you when you're driving around, go to whatever street you're driving down, see what houses naturally attract you, and that's what curb appeal
But
is.
seriously, I want to go back to this. It's called fake grass because as I see some of this fake grass, it looks real.
Yeah, you see it a lot, and it looks beautiful, and you really wouldn't even know that it's fake until you're up close. Do you guys recommend people putting that in as a way to save water and money? I guess it would.
The good thing is that it saves water, but it is a big, huge investment. It's not
Really?
cheap if you do it right because they have to scrape the first 4 or 5 inches of earth out of the area they're going to put it to. That dirt has to go somewhere. Then they bring in either decomposed granite and level it off and smash it with specific packers and tools to get it really hard. Then they put the carpet on it. Then they have to cut it. Then they have to nail the perimeter. It's a huge.
They even
then,
put a weed blocker on there.
and then
too.
they put the weed blocker, and then after they lay it, they put types of sand, and then they rake it so it feels real. Some fake grass gets so hot in the summer you can't stand on it. That's another problem with the fake grass. Most of the time it's nice, but there are times where if it reaches like 90 degrees outside, you won't be laying on that fake grass because it does retain a lot of heat as opposed to natural grass.
Wow. And what happens when a dog poops on it?
The reason why you put the decomposed granite 4 to 5 inches underneath it is for
No, he said, what happens when the dog poops on it?
when the dog poops on it, you just wait till it gets hard and hit it with a 9-iron.
You know what's fun to do, Jesse?
No, I'm
Put
just
fake
kidding.
dog poop on fake grass.
I'm joking.
The poop.
Really
right?
freak
Not the
somebody
dog.
out, you know?
The poop, not the dog.
Not into animal abuse, but I
Okay, good.
will
No,
have
you-
heard
Sure.
with the
Actually,
Mark is into fake animals and fake people, so I wasn't sure who was hitting with the 9-iron at this point.
Okay, here's a question
Right.
I need to ask here. Is it important to do your landscaping before you list your house for sale? Frank, you sell houses,
That would be absolutely. Why would you do it after you sell it, right?
right? So you have to do it right. So the way you do it is you can do it yourself, or you can call somebody called a landscape architect. And
Yes.
they will come out, just like designing a home, they will come out and design your landscaping.
Right.
And you get a degree in landscape architecture.
Yeah, it's not just picking plants. Landscape architect is doing the topography, the levels, the irrigation, the timers, the types of plants that are going to go good together, the hardscape, what kind of rocks, what kind of boulders. I mean, it's huge. So it's not just a guy going, hey, plant there. It's a very, you have to know a lot to be a landscape architect.
It's all about.
Do you
creating a
recommend
pretty
getting that?
picture.
No,
Mhm.
I mean, it depends on what you want. If you want to save money, then I would say no. If you want to get, if you have a big house and maybe it's bland outside, some of these houses have nothing, then that is a alternative. But they like Mark said, it's kind of like hiring an architect to build something. They're not cheap, but they're well worth it.
I'll recommend a landscape architect
Yeah, I would
after
too.
you buy the house
Oh, after you
to
buy the
do
house, right?
to do that.
That'd be
But
good.
before, you can probably figure it out yourself. Now, the other thing is, there's some restrictions on the kind of trees you can plant with certain HOAs, and there's certain trees that if you plant them in your yard, they get into your plumbing, and they'll destroy your pipes. One of them is this tree called a Benjamin Ficus tree. Have you heard of this?
Oh, I had that. It happened to me.
What happened,
It
Maria?
happened to me on my property.
Really?
Yeah, it got into the sewage line, and then I had to have a guy come and fix it.
Drill it out.
Who then had a whole conversation with me afterwards about how he doesn't mind dealing with Dookie.
Oh God.
So that's a whole job. I don't want to deny these people their work, but I wouldn't recommend that in the future. You've got to be really, really careful.
Benjamin ficus trees
Yeah.
and similar trees, once you plant them, they look really nice. They're leafy all year round. But underneath, what they do, the roots can hear the water, believe it or not. They sense the vibration, and then they go towards it. They wrap around the pipe, and they squeeze it like a boa constrictor until it cracks. And then they go in, and they find the water source, and they follow the water up. So you may, these are those weird stories you hear about somebody seeing roots coming up from their toilet. That's how many Benjamin ficus roots are in there, and then you have to drill it
Yeah, they'll
out.
grow out of the toilet. You'll flush your toilet. You'll see
No
something in
kidding.
it, and you'll say,
Yes.
"What the heck's in my toilet?" It's a root or an
Yes.
alligator
Yes.
in Florida.
Wow.
Yeah. So there's certain. Another one is a rubber tree. Those things lift up foundations and houses, and they have a very aggressive root system. You can plant them, but there's always something. There's always a perimeter and how many feet it should be away from a structure, a sidewalk, or irrigation pipes. So some of these trees just usually should be in a park.
So what are good things to, if you're selling your house, what are good things to plant to quickly enhance the curb appeal of your house?
Well, there's two things you can do. You want to have color. So you always want to get the flowers. You go to any big box store and you go to the garden section, and you want to just grab some pots, because that's the easiest way. Put them by your door, put them down, the walkway, and get some really nice, colorful plants that either can, go with the house or you can take with them. And then you have your regular, your palm trees. They're very non-invasive. They don't do anything to sidewalks and curbs. You can see a huge palm tree in a sidewalk, and the sidewalk is fine. So their roots look like straws, and they go out like, Rastafarian hair, and they get all the water, and it doesn't take much, and that's why they grow in the desert. So that's a good one. But
Let me ask you guys another question. Can poor landscaping hurt the sale of your house? Can it decrease your property value?
well, that'd be absolutely yes. If you go to a house and it has weeds or a bunch of dirt in the front yard, right away, you won't even stop there. I remember the times where if you have a bad landscaping, a bad no curb appeal, the person's going to pull up and say next, and they're just going to cross that one off and keep going.
It's almost like a human being. Like if you showed up on a first date,
that's what I
and
said.
your hair
yeah.
was all disheveled,
right. You look homeless.
dirty,
Bye bye.
Right.
But
That
so much
explains it.
potential.
Exactly.
I mean, really,
There's potential.
if we're looking from a positive viewpoint,
Yes.
here, really.
Well, that's what I mean. So the reason why landscaping is such a bad issue is because no one has the strength to do it. Like if you're like a young person and you want to do out there and dig holes, but it's very hard work. Just to plant one tree is very difficult. So that's why Mark said grab the architect and then grab some gardeners to help you out. But you can look at pictures. You can design it yourself. You can see what your neighbors are doing. And it's pretty easy to do. One of them is as simple as painting your front fence. If you have these, everyone wants a white picket fence,
Right.
and most of them are not painted correctly. Just that alone will increase
Can
the
I tell you
value.
something that's very annoying about
I
landscaping?
have a question.
Yes.
Go
I have
ahead.
a question. So how much money are we talking about? Say if I spend per $1,000 I spend on extra landscaping, how much am I going to quantify on the sale.
You
I
get-
mean, how
you
much
get-
of a
you
difference
typically-
is it really going to make?
I
Okay,
can
this
tell
is
you because I have some percentages.
okay. Well, I
You can-
know it.
go
but-
ahead.
Of course you do.
Well, I'm going to say it doubles it. So if you spend
What,
$1,000
really?
you get 2,000 back. As opposed to a kitchen, if you spend 100,000 in your kitchen or 50,000, you get the equal amount back, but not
Right.
double it. So actually, landscaping gives you more than a redone master bathroom or a kitchen.
Really?
Let me ask you this.
Yes.
Do
Wow.
people ever cheat with like Photoshop, like list their house and then make it look nice, and then you get up and you're like, Rastafarian hair everywhere or whatever. Dreadlocks they're called. But no, I mean, is that because it sounds like people are getting, like on online dating, that's a thing. You get catfished, you show up, I don't
Yeah.
look like me, you don't look like you. But is that something with homes, or I guess
Well, I can tell you, maybe
once they
not with
show
homes,
up.
but you can see it a lot on the realtors' business cards because sometimes you see the face on the business
Really?
card and you're like, wow, who is this? Well, that was in high school. Well, you're
There
70
are
now.
people that Photoshop, and there are some things you can get away with Photoshop, but typically it's not legal to do that. It's,
Yeah,
it's,
you can't like
you can't add a bunch of palm trees and a fake sunset and all that stuff.
Right.
You can add certain things. Like if you're going to take a picture of the interior of their house, you could put a fake sofa there because a sofa could be there, even though it's not the one that's there. But you can't be adding like trees on the outside of your house and
and you
fake
can't remove
vegetation.
things either. You can't remove a telephone pole or wires.
Right. All these have been attempted, Jesse. Good question.
Yeah.
And people get caught. And that's why there's rules and regulations pertaining to real estate
This is
photos.
something about landscaping.
What
that
about
really-
pool? Could you just Photoshop a pool in there?
Yeah,
well,
yeah. That's
it could be
harmless.
there.
No, I'm kidding.
It could be.
Yeah.
So
Maybe
here's
it's on
something.
the inside of the house. Could be.
That's a good one as far as landscaping. What we're talking about pools. Do pools add value or do they decrease your value? What do you guys think?
Oh my gosh, they must increase it a ton, right?
Well, I don't know. What if you have a
told-
newborn 1-year-old?
Yes. What were you told, Maria?
First off, if you have a newborn 1-year-old,
Yeah.
teach them to swim.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And
Floaties.
I was told that pools don't necessarily increase the value of the house that much, maybe 10 grand
Really?
or so. And so I had another home where I was trying to decide, and it was dilapidated. I needed to make the decision as to whether to make the improvements on the pool and get exactly the same amount back from those improvements because it wasn't going to substantially increase over and above like landscaping would.
Right.
And I ended up deciding to make it nice because it's nicer to have a nice looking pool. It's a better selling point than if you take money off the price and it's just a great big hole in the ground with a
Water.
Rastafarian in the middle. I mean, that's
What do you
Yeah.
guys think about this? This is
Interesting.
what do you think about when you do all this landscaping? I know Maria had a full-time gardener. When the gardeners come by and their blowers are so loud that you can barely hear yourself think. Do you think that should be illegal?
Well,
Because some cities have made that illegal.
See, the reason why I had a gardener and it took him all week was because I didn't like him to use the blower. He just had to blow the leaves by mouth. So
Yeah. It was exhausting, let me tell you.
that's why it takes all week where you've got to do
Oh, jeez.
like, please, I like
It was
peace
the
and
worst.
quiet, Zen. It's a whole new interpretation of giving Mrs. Hammond a blowjob.
Yeah.
You know what's really funny about
Gave me asthma.
landscaping also? There are certain restrictions on how high you can build a fence. I think it's like 6 feet on the sides, 4 feet in the front. But with landscaping, is there a restriction on how tall you can grow your bamboo or they're called Italian cypress trees?
Height limitations.
Is there?
Mm.
Are you asking me?
Yeah.
Good question.
Well,
Anybody.
there's definitely restrictions. If you look at any HOA, you can't even touch your front yard until you take the design into the HOA board, and they have to approve it. And there usually has to be a landscape architect involved because they don't want anything hokey. Once it gets a final approval, then you're able to do it. But if you do it before, they can make you remove it all or
Right.
fine you.
Yeah, you can't just plant anything. But if you don't have an HOA,
Well, then you can do whatever you want.
you can plant bamboo and grow it as tall as you want. And
Now, remember, when you're trying to
Wait a minute. What about height restrictions? There are like living
No.
in Point Loma. If you were going to block someone else's view, you can't just plant something that's
oh,
going
that's
to
a good
grow
point.
up and block someone's view. You couldn't do that.
well, you can. But
kind of
it's not-
sad.
But it's rude.
Yeah.
But in certain areas you can't.
Yeah,
If somebody's tree is blocking your, well, this has happened. Somebody's trees are blocking somebody's view,
right.
and they just cut it down without even telling the guy.
Well, that's illegal.
Yeah, you can't do that.
Right.
You
Well,
can't-
is it illegal if you do it in the middle of the night?
In fact, I sold a house in Point Loma, and when you look out the kitchen, you had a perfect view of the water, but there was an old tree blocking you that was in the neighbor's house on the side yard, and the neighbors just go, "We're not moving it. We're not taking it down."
It's a pretty tree, though.
Yeah, we couldn't.
It's a really
do it.
nice
So,
tree.
so you got. I mean, there could be some CC&Rs, which is as opposed to HOAs or covenants,
Is that
restriction
Creedence
contracts.
Clearwater Revival?
Yeah, CC&R. You're right.
Those are good. I like those.
But
I'm always looking out the front door at those.
the reason why I was talking about the swimming pool is
The
because
back door?
So
Yeah, what's back
should you
door?
landscape your backyard as well as your front yard?
Hmm.
you know, it's just like what we're all talking about. The good landscape in the front brings them in the house, and then they go in the house, and they're going to go in the backyard. So do you have a pool with a
Still.
cracked sidewalk around it and walls that are falling down? Because that's part of the hardscape. You know, so it should
And
all
you
look
definitely
good.
want your backyard to have curb appeal, right, fellas? Sorry.
The
Well,
bottom
that's
line.
a different kind of scaping.
So as far as landscaping goes, it is a good idea if you're going to sell your house to invest some money in landscaping, correct?
Correct. Or even mow your lawn. It could be
Yeah.
that easy. You don't have to do all these crazy things. Just trim the tree, mow the lawn, cut the edges and sweep it up. Maybe a little power washing in the front where people have been walking for 20 years and no one's cleaned it. I mean, these are all very, very cheap ways of making it much better than it was.
My gardener's name was Mow Lawn,
Oh, yeah, I met him.
and he had a cousin,
And then
Trim
you're saying-
Hedge. Remember him?
Yeah, I remember him.
You're saying that flowers really add a lot color.
They
I
do.
would think paint. Is
listen,
there any other
this-
cheap
Oh,
things that you can do like that?
yeah, paint. Paint your front door. Make sure it's not all weird. If you have a window in your front door, as easy as getting some Windex and cleaning it. You know, get the spider webs and the wasp nests outside of the cracks of your front. You know, like remove old stucco and have it redone.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of people that put chips, the wood chips around. That
You know,
have been
these
there for
wood
too
chips
long.
now, they're not wood anymore. They have rubber wood chips. They last forever.
Yeah, but they smell bad.
Really?
Yeah. They're made out of...
They do.
What do they smell
They
of?
smell like
Smell like
petroleum
rubber.
tires. They're made out of
Mm.
they're made out of old ground tires,
Yeah.
and they
They're-
look. You couldn't tell the difference.
They look exactly like wood chips,
right.
but they never change color.
Yeah.
Do you have to be right on top of them to smell them and they smell like tires? 'Cause
Yeah,
that would,
they don't
I mean,
smell
if
that
that's your
bad.
thing-
Well, at first,
I mean,
at first,
you get a
remember-
little bit of an odor, but after they've been in the sun for a while, you can't smell them really.
Yeah,
it's pretty
that's
good.
true.
And they're a ground cover that will prevent things from growing.
Right.
Look,
and they last forever.
they
don't
look pretty
fade.
nice, you know.
The colors don't fade.
You mentioned odor. That makes me think, is there ways to use scents to your advantage when you're selling your house? Like invite people in, I'm cooking bacon and fresh cookies or something. You can waft that out on the street. Is
that's
that
like
part of
Do that.
Yeah, they do all the time. They have candles that they burn with the apple scent, or they put something in that smells like
Vanilla's good.
a vanilla.
People like
right.
vanilla.
Calm.
There's
Now-
certain scents.
Febreze just.
There's
brings
even
Febreze.
scents you can put on yourself. Endorphins. I think they're not endorphins. But
You
they're-
know what I think they ought to
To
make a
attract,
candle
you know.
of?
Yeah.
We need
Yeah.
a candle that's of a rotisserie chicken. That's
Oh, gee.
bring it in. Bring it in.
That's a good one.
Bring it in.
Light a couple of those in the
Oh,
kitchen.
Hey,
where's
we're
the
about to-
chicken?
We're
How
about
about,
to.
how about a lasagna candle?
We're about to close. That sounds good. We're about to close up here, and
Yeah, that
finish-
went by quick. For
Yeah, it went by.
landscaping.
Landscaping is really important, but we also want to know how can we get a hold of Jesse Egan if we want to hear him perform somewhere.
You could find me at Jesse Egan Comedy on all social media. And if you're looking for me today, I'll be out searching Bed Bath & Beyond for some poultry candles.
And Maria, how can we get a hold of you for comedy?
I will be carrying Jesse's bag. That's my job. Find me at Comedy Heights, and Jesse will be headlining at Comedy Heights very soon. So
Excellent.
Find us
forward to it.
comedyheights.com.
Mark, how do we get in touch with you?
For all your real estate needs, if you're thinking about buying, selling, or just have a few questions, you can reach us at powellbrothersrealty.com or give us a call at 858-922-7725. And thank you very much for tuning in this Saturday to My Funny House with the Powell Brothers and our famous an excellent comedy staff here.
Thanks so much for joining us today for My Funny House with the Powell Brothers, right here on The Answer San Diego. Join us next week as the Powell Brothers bring you more funny stories of what can go really right and what can go really wrong with home improvements and home ownership, and bring the laughs to you with yet another hilarious guest comedian. To find out more about the Powell Brothers, be sure to check out their website at powellbrothersrealty.com, or you can visit myfunnyhouse.com. Again, thanks for being with us, and we'll see you next week for My Funny House on The Answer San Diego.